Alright everyone, of course a little bit late today due to previously scheduled things. There's a heat wave, a little mini heat wave going on, so, I'm in my more casual uniform at the moment. We gotta talk about the Legacymedia's culpability in part for these riots that are currently going on. Let me be completely clear, these are no longer protests in any meaningful sense. They don't have to do with George Floyd. Most of the people currently burning shit up probably don't even know who he is. A lot of these people probably don't even know that there's such a central case that sparked this in the first place. Most of these people probably don't care about police brutality. In fact, of course, when you get to the point where you're torching your own neighborhood, you kind of, if you're reasonable anyway, if you have any sanity at all, including, I'm assuming, at least some of the rioters, you realize that the police at some point will be antagonized to the point where they have to take action. We've got multiple dead police now in the country, many, many more injured, Secret Service injuries. We've got private homeowners now having their homes, I guess, in D.C. last night, I guess, in one case, a family was essentially held hostage by a group of mobs that came in and just refused to leave. This also points out why we need to expand the Second Amendment protection in the U.S. There needs to be nationwide stand your ground and castle doctrine, an elimination of all of the gun control in the country, the NFA and so forth. Also, I'd pair this with an admonishment. One thing I have a problem with among people on the right is that they want someone else to solve their problems, but you're not even willing to go to the ballot box. Turnout in the U.S. elections is abysmal. If all of you actually turned out to vote, none of these Democrats that are stripping people of their rights and currently refusing to deal with the problem to the point where the National Guard has to be in, none of them would be in office. Pelosi wouldn't exist in a political capacity. Yeah, even in a blue state like California, differential in turnout could kick somebody even as powerful as her to the side. But if you don't vote and you don't fucking do anything except make tweets, how are you any different than a Karen that's just complaining about things and ultimately doesn't really do anything? As far as the Legacymedia goes, though, they're most directly culpable. I mean, initially, my initial response to this was police brutality is wrong, which it is. George Floyd was wrongfully killed, which he was. And sympathy, but then immediately, instead of actually doing what a reasonable, sane person would do, would just say, there's a problem here, we're going to petition, we're going to protest. The whole nation was watching, and pretty much everyone was unified in that basic concept, until the looting started. It's just like with the LA riots, and I tweeted this out earlier, I said this. After Rodney King was beaten up, police brutality, obviously a wrongful situation, never should have happened. They didn't realize they were being recorded. It was a big problem for them at the time. Did the LAPD become less brutal or clean itself up afterwards? No, it became, if anything, worse. Why? Because people started doing exactly what they're doing now. Trump, by the way, is responding exactly as the president not only should, but must respond. When these people say, oh, he's attacking peaceful protesters, no, he's not. Absolutely not. The police are directed by the local mayors and governors, number one. Trump doesn't directly coordinate everything. Anyway, these aren't peaceful protests. Again, not in any meaningful way. Even if there are a group of people that are standing there throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails, that is not a protest. It's not constitutionally protected. It's lawless criminal behavior, arson, vandalism, and assault. And President Trump, literally, the reason we pay him for the job that he does is to take care of things specifically like this. This is one of his most key roles, which is to maintain the basic order of civilization. And these people apparently are forgetting Ferguson, where Obama did the same thing, using, in fact, the same language, literally calling the rioters thugs. Nobody had a problem with that. Pelosi never called Obama a racist for saying that. I wonder why. Is it the D after his name or the amount of melanin in his skin, Pelosi? I'd really like to hear an explanation. All these morons on the left. But the Legacymedia is most uniquely responsible at this point, and I'll tell you why. Because they refuse to inform their jaded audiences that these are riots. They call them protests. And so there's not as much ire directed at them, despite the fact that these people are dispossessing normal civilian individuals, not cops, regular beat street people, in the lower and working and middle class, of businesses, of employment, of infrastructure within their communities, the ability to go outside safely. In some of these places, lockdowns have just, begun to ameliorate. Now you can't, before you couldn't take the kids out because Uncle Sam decided, you'll kill grandma. Now the rioters are out there, you can't take your kids outside and they have to hear screaming and explosions all night. At least they don't have to get up to go to school tomorrow, because apparently we're never going to open the school system up again, despite the minuscule or almost non-existent death rate of coronavirus among those of young age. Apparently, it's basically like a fuck civilization moment, I think, for a lot of people. They're just like, fuck it. They're so black-pilled, they don't even give a fuck. But the legacy media has conned them into believing that. Yeah, I mean, look at all the coverage. Again, I talked about this 2 days ago, looking at CNN's front page, which I archived at the time, not one mention of the word riots. Despite the fact that already you had almost 200 businesses destroyed just in Minneapolis. The list is longer now. It's something like 300-400. Multiple nights, almost a week now, of nonstop rioting that's spread out to multiple large U.S. cities. It looks like the NYPD is one of the few police forces in the whole fucking country apparently capable of dealing with a small proportion of the population going nuts. Why aren't they just arresting, throw these people in jail? You know, you let a bunch of criminals out, by the way, and I'm sure that some of them are doing crazy shit right now too, because you were letting out literally psychopathic individuals. Why don't you just fucking load up the prison cells then with people that are actually committing real crimes right now? Arson and so forth. Simple assault, assault with a deadly weapon, vehicular homicide, and all these things. You've got multiple police dead at this moment, multiple injuries, many injuries among Secret Service. It's funny, because this is basically just Ferguson times 10, or something like that, and then they choose to blame Trump. The Trump derangement syndrome is so deep that despite the fact that these riots have nothing to do with police brutality, and despite the fact that Minneapolis police have nothing to do with any policy that Trump implemented, if anything, ironically enough, has more to do with Biden-era policies from the 80s and 90s, the tough-on-crime period. Sponsored by people like Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi, and Hillary Clinton, and Al Gore. Half the DC housewife moralists that were so worried about crack, they were fucking Democrats. They were Clintonians. Joe Biden was one of the chief architects of the same kind of legislation that is shielding police at this very moment. We do have a crisis of police brutality in the United States. Burning your community is not going to address that. That's been tried before. When these people say, well, the voice of the unheard is rioting. Please spare me the virtue signaling trying to compare these people to the civil rights movement. These people don't even have a fucking grievance. These people are motivated either by fanatic political ideologies, a desire to do damage to property because they're just fucking stupid, or a desire to get free shit. And that's really all. That's 99% of the people there. Occasionally you might just get a firebug, someone with some severe disturbance. Most of them are motivated by one of those three things. They're not protesters. Anyway, I mean, the whole situation is bullshit. Now, probably these riots will be taken care of at this point. It's going to be funny. I can't wait to see the public's actual response, because I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of people, at least secretly, don't approve of the Democrats applauding riots. Applauding people who have nothing better to do than to get together in large groups and burn their own local businesses. I love all of their constant lies. They're actually protests. Antifa's not real. Antifa's just an idea. It's not a real movement or organization. Oh, Trump is killing peaceful protesters. No, he's not. Our troops are going in to restore order because apparently there are multiple cities in this country that are run by governments either so inept or so corrupt they're either incapable or unwilling to defend their own people's property. Who else is going to do it? The people don't have it. The people pay taxes for a reason, to afford them protection of their property. And by the way, if Trump doesn't get involved, people eventually will take matters into their own hands. And that would start a real fucking big problem now for the Democrats, wouldn't it? Considering that they're considerably outnumbered and outgunned. I think that they should rethink their dedication to their pseudo-revolutionary bullshit right now. Bernie Sanders coming, oh, we don't have a dictator. Trump is sending the troops in. He's doing terrible things. That's exactly what Obama did, dude. I didn't see you bitch about Ferguson. I didn't see you bitch about problems back then. No, back then you bitched about the fact that there were white supremacists. Now you choose to bitch about one particular white person, namely the President of the United States, who's doing exactly lock, stock, and barrel the same fucking shit that Obama did. Restoring order because property and life are at risk. That's his fucking job. That's literally his job description. The things that Trump is supposed to do, they don't want him to do. And then they want him to do a bunch of bullshit that he's either not legally entitled to do or shouldn't be dedicated to. These people have a topsy-turvy idea of what the chief executive's office is meant to represent. They think that Trump is supposed to be a dictator in the diplomatic sense, while at the same time being completely defanged when it comes to his most central role, which is the basic defense of the nation. That includes domestic threats. This, at this point, is a domestic threat. You have people burning down thousands of businesses. Think about it. You've got high unemployment already in a fucking pandemic, and you have groups of people burning enough businesses to probably dispossess 20, 30,000 people, maybe 40, 50,000 people nationwide in multiple large metropolitan areas of their fucking jobs. Those are low-wage and middle-class workers, along with a few managers. They're not billionaires. They're not burning Jeff Bezos' house. They're not going after Bill Gates. Michael Moore's 20-bedroom fucking palace, that's not in any danger because they have private guards and fences and live out on the edge of society with their vast estates and so forth. See, the Joe Bidens of the world don't have to deal with the problems. If they were endangered, I guarantee they'd be singing a different tune, and I've pointed this hypocrisy out even among the suburbanite, weak, lily-livered liberal class of content creators. None of these people are living in some fucking slum in the inner city where the local 7-Eleven just got burned down. They're not living there, so they don't see the problem. In fact, they cheer it on. Bunch of shitheads is what they are. People who think that way are shitheads. If this was legitimate ire, if these people were saying, you know what, the government sucks, authoritarianism sucks, man, and they just decided to haul off and attack government facilities or something, I probably wouldn't be so enraged. You know, my taxpayer dollars have to repair it. It's still going to be impotent. They'll probably get shot in the process, but at least they're not burning a local home business down. Dude, they're invading people's homes at this point. They're smashing up cars on the edge of the suburbs. Trust me, when all of those suburban Karens realize that they might actually be in danger finally, they'll sing a different tune. By the way, you're going to cause these people to vote for Trump. Oh, it's going to be overwhelming. I keep seeing black-pilled people, well, Trump's response is improper. Trump is going to lose popularity. There will be a temporary loss of popularity, but it's going to reverse itself pretty quickly. I think that Trump knows full well what he's doing. And anyway, Biden, he just chooses to grandstand. He goes out and he chooses the nicest looking protesters, the one in some safe neighborhood. And of course, he's got like 20 armed guards around him at the time. And he goes and talks to them and says, oh yeah, I understand you're angry because Orange Man has done some abstract bad to you. None of these people's lives improved under Obama. The dude you served under, who happens to be black, a Democrat. Nothing changed for these people. If anything, the economic progress Trump has made uplifted more people in the inner cities. Of course, then you decided to piss that away by locking down capitalism for multiple months. And then things start opening back up. You see, here's why this has been engineered. Here's why they chose this particular moment in time to start burning cars. Because they're worried Trump will get reelected because the coronavirus epidemic is going bye-bye. Things here are opening back up. It's the same thing. I'm in one of the big banking centers of the world. You'd think that if anything, high population density, a lot of transit, a lot of tourism, things would be more locked down here. That's happening in the U.S. too. Things are beginning to be back above board. The economy is actually growing. The Soroses of the world got nervous, so they decided to cause a little bit of mayhem. It's about time that they get taught a lesson. That's about all. Peace out.